and thank you for joining us again at Voice of Rohingya Radio, a media broadcast of Friends of Rohingya USA, a registered nonprofit offering social and humanitarian support to people in need. Voice of Rohingya Radio is your source for news concerning struggles the ethnic minorities of Burma face each week. We provide exclusive interviews, reports from inside the border, and the latest news from reputable sources around the world. We ask that you take a moment and go to friendsofrohingya.org for up-to-date news and information concerning this program and how you can get involved. You can learn more about the Rohingya cause by supporting Friends of Rohingya USA today. Voice of Rohingya Radio is the only news source of its kind in the English-speaking world, bringing you the latest news in a convenient format and keeping you informed and involved. You can listen to our program each week, Sundays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, or search for us on SoundCloud.com. To sponsor our program, simply log on to our website or send us an email to support@friendsofrohingya.org. It is May 3rd, 2015. For Voice of Rohingya Radio, I am your host, Zach Taylor. Conditions are ripe for genocide in Burma, according to a report by the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. Staffers from the Washington Museum's Simon Skjodt Center for the Prevention of Genocide visited the Southeast Asian nation in March to investigate threats facing the Rohingya. According to the report last week, the Rohingya are being segregated in ghettos or internment camps after being violently displaced. The staffers visited the camps and spoke with some people living in the ghettos who were separated from their Buddhist neighbors. Also, the report said the Rohingya are the target of hate speech and are being denied citizenship and freedom of movement, and Burma is undergoing a modern form of apartheid. In other news, Thursday night, a small team of Thai policemen were led to an encampment in the jungle near a town called Padang Besar on the Thai-Malaysia border. The human traffickers and smugglers who ran this place, a major staging post on the route south, appeared to have made a rapid departure, taking their victims with them. However, there were bits of food and drink cans on the ground and a man of Middle Eastern appearance who was too sick to move. The police also found a dead body that had not yet been buried. About 300 meters from the main camp, the police team found approximately 50 graves. Forensic personnel arrived on site Friday and have currently removed 32 bodies as of the time of the report, the vast majority thought to be Rohingya refugees. Channel 4 News reported that Thai border police were led to this remote spot by a well-known trafficker called Anwar, who was arrested 2 days ago in the town of Songkhla. Police think the criminal gang who ran the camp left 2 days ago and have moved across the border into Malaysia. According to the acting police general, it will be difficult to trace them now. The discovery, which police Friday described as shocking, underlines the brutal nature of the trade in human beings. 2 survivors, men aged 25 and 35, told doctors that they had spent months at the camp despite falling sick and having little to eat. Both are malnourished, have scabies and lice, a local doctor told AFP at Padang Besar Hospital. The older man could not walk and had to be carried off the mountain. He hadn't eaten anything for 2 days before he was found. He told the translator he had a fever in the jungle for 2 months. Doctors said that the men had not been fully identified, but were either from Bangladesh or Myanmar. Both were rigged to IV drips and appeared to be frail as they lay in their ward beds. Campaigners say hundreds of people die along this route every year in overcrowded boats, isolated camps, and squalid detention centers. Ambassador-at-Large for International Religious Freedom David Saperstein will visit Burma together with Ambassador Andrew Bennett of Canada's Office of Religious Freedom May 2nd through the 5th. The ambassadors will meet with religious and interfaith leaders, government officials, representatives of non-governmental organizations, students, and civil society activists, including representatives of Burma's religious and ethnic minority communities. They will be delivering a joint message that improving religious freedom conditions will advance Burma's security, stability, and democracy. In other news, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, or USCIRF, has recently issued its report on Myanmar. The key findings of the report say that in 2014, religious and ethnic minorities in Burma continued to experience intolerance, discrimination, and violence, particularly among the Rohingya Muslims. Bigotry and chauvinism against religious and ethnic minorities grew more pervasive, in some cases provoked by religious figures within the Buddhist community, while the Burmese government demonstrated little willingness to intervene, investigate properly, or prosecute those responsible for abuses in a timely and transparent manner. While the government at times denounced violence and incitement, its lack of strong and consistent leadership to condemn intolerance enabled its abuses to continue relatively unchecked. Throughout 2014, the expansion of internet availability and social media played a role in propagating expressions of hatred and spurring violence directed against the minority populations. The introduction of 4 discriminatory race and religion bills in 2014 could well further entrench such prejudices. Based on these systematic, egregious, and ongoing violations, USCIRF continues to recommend in 2015 that Burma be designated a, quote, country of particular concern, or CPC, under the International Religious Freedom Act. The State Department has designated Burma as a CPC since 1999, most recently in July of 2014. During its August 2014 meetings in Naypyidaw, the capital of Myanmar, the USCIRF pointed out Burma's failure to redress serious violations of human rights of the minority Rohingya and other persecuted folks. And yet, when Burma's Ministry of Foreign Affairs addressed the UN General Assembly in September 2014, he audaciously claimed that his country had addressed all major concerns related to human rights and should be removed from the UN Human Rights Council's agenda. Obviously, the rogue state is not getting its message right and continues to live in denial. The USCIRF report underscores the toxic and sinister influence of fascist elements within the Buddhist community in deciding the fate of Myanmar. Many are afraid that as long as these hate provocateurs get away scot-free, we shall continue to see the suffering of the Rohingya and other persecuted peoples, and all of these USCIRF reports won't be worth the paper on which they are written. You are listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio. Thanks again for listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio, your source for Rohingya news. We'd like to remind you to log on to www.friendsofrohingya.org to get involved and to show your support. Recent statements made by Malaysia's foreign minister recognizing the regional significance of the plight of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar are a step in the right direction, but ASEAN leaders must take concrete action to address the ongoing crisis, said ASEAN parliamentarians for human rights this week. During a press conference on April 24th, the Malaysian Foreign Minister, Datuk Seri Anifah Aman, acknowledged that the escalating crisis in Myanmar's Rakhine state and the associated refugee flux to other countries were impacting the entire region. He said the crisis was an issue for ASEAN to resolve together with Myanmar. He further said that ASEAN leaders would discuss the issue at the 26th ASEAN Summit, which took place this week in Kuala Lumpur. We are pleased that the foreign minister has recognized the reality that the Rohingya crisis is not just a problem for Myanmar, but one for all of ASEAN, said Charles Santiago, APHR's chairperson and a member of parliament in Malaysia. We hope that other ASEAN leaders will come to the same conclusion and take action to deal with the crisis. However, the Myanmar government continues to block all attempts to formally discuss the issue at the regional level, demonstrating the structural failures that prevent ASEAN from addressing pressing humanitarian issues in a timely and effective manner, if at all. If ASEAN cannot solve the crisis itself, APHR warned inevitably that the international community will be brought into the picture in a more concrete way, further undermining the ASEAN experiment. In a report released last week, APHR called on ASEAN leaders to conduct an independent investigation of the situation on the ground in Rakhine State, strengthen regional mechanisms for human rights oversight, and commit to protecting Rohingya fleeing Myanmar by granting them refugee status. APHR argued that ASEAN leaders have an important role to play in pushing the Myanmar government to grant Rohingya full citizenship, denounce hate speech, and hold perpetrators of violence accountable. ASEAN leaders have yet to act on our recommendations. Acknowledging the seriousness of this issue is an important first step, but words need to be backed up by actions, Santiago concluded. In other news, Rakhine State immigration officers have collected more than 300,000 white cards in the past 4 weeks, State Immigration Department Director U Kien-so told the Myanmar Times yesterday. He said that the figure represented half of all the white card holders in Rakhine. In February, the president's office announced that the cards, which have been distributed to temporary citizens, would be invalid from March 31st. Holders have been given until May 31st to return them. The decision followed protests prompted by Parliament's decision to allow white card holders to vote in a planned referendum. More than 83% of white card holders live in Rakhine State, and most are held by Rohingya. The handback began slowly but has gathered speed since, said Immigration Director U Kien-so. As of today, we have received 300,432 white cards, nearly half of the 660,000 issued in Rakhine State. We believe we can recover them all by the end of May, U Kien-so said yesterday. In some camps, they are still afraid of surrendering their cards, but as soon as they clearly understand that the current cards are useless, I am sure they will give them up, he added. In collecting the cards, the authorities check the number against ministry records. If the card numbers do not match the records, they do not take them. Otherwise, they will accept all cards, even if the photo is unclear or the card is torn. Collection began across the country on April 1st. It is not yet clear what document, if any, will eventually be given to the former white card holders. The issue may again become contentious in the context of the referendum to be held on amendments to the Constitution, as well as the November election. According to the ministry, there are nearly 800,000 white card holders around the country. Thanks again for listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio, a weekly news program bringing you up-to-date information about the Rohingya people in Myanmar. You can catch our broadcast every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Time here in the United States by logging on to vorradio.org, or you can join our page on Facebook to find more information on the program. For Voice of Rohingya Radio, this is Zach Taylor, signing out.